What does a creature look like capable of assuming the similitude of different sea creatures? Does the flying spaghetti monster exist? What mysterious purple ball inhabits the bottom of the ocean? You'll learn everything. In this episode, you'll see the most inexplicable creatures found in the depth of the ocean. Underwater flower. Few people would have thought that somewhere deep underwater, a lone flower, unlike any known plant, could be found. However, this is the case. Researchers made an amazing discovery, sinking to a depth of about 2.5 miles in the area of Hawaii. First of all, people thought that this is one of the representatives of jellyfish, but then it turned out that creatures of this species have so far been found only in the Atlantic and Indian Oceans. So there's no information about the monster in the video. It's either a jellyfish unknown to science, or a real flower, or even a guest from another planet. Write in the comments, what do you think about it? Purple ball. And here's another no less mysterious discovery made near the coast of California. There, at great depths, people found a similar purple ball, which didn't resemble any organism known to modern science. Its diameter was about 2 inches. According to experts, they tried to bring the ball on board. To do this, people used a vacuum system, but as soon as the item was on board, it split into 2 parts. Could it have been an alien spy with a function of self-destruction? There's a lot of speculation about that ball or flower underwater, but I'll tell you this, when scientists encounter something as rare as this, but known to humans, it makes me feel a little better about myself. Mysterious monsters make me tired. Another thing here, a rare but understandable to us all jellyfish, which was filmed off the coast of New Ireland. Appreciate its unique appearance in the comments. It's beautiful, isn't it? Blobfish. A person who is not well acquainted with the animal world, hearing this name for the first time, will think that it's about some small and cute creature. With the former, he's not wrong. The blobfish does not exceed 12 inches in length and weighs usually no more than 4.5 pounds. Anyway, I would argue that it's cute. Some consider this creature to be the ugliest of all the world's fauna. In fact, we can see an incomprehensible and sad face in front of us. Spending almost all its time at great depths, it breathes there without the help of an air bubble. By the way, it produces a gelatinous gel it consists of. Without this substance, it'd be difficult to withstand the water column and swim. Although it's hard to call these awkward movements the creature makes swimming, it doesn't have muscles. Lord Vader. Do you know what that's called? It's an unspoken name given to giant isopods that are regularly found at great depths. The thing is that if you look at the front of the head of one of these species, you can see the outline of Darth Vader's helmet, hence the name. In addition to this, giant isopods are very good at defense. In case of danger, these creatures curl up into a ball to protect soft tissue. They also have 7 pairs of legs. The front one of them is needed to push food into their 4 pairs of paws. Squidworm. When you hear this name, there's some dissonance in your head because you can't imagine any creature that fits this name. At the same time, Mother Nature proves to us that everything is possible in this life, even the squidworm. There's really nothing to say about it. It's not yet a studied monster from the depths about which there's almost no accurate information. So I suggest we just enjoy it for a couple more seconds and move on. Yeti. And there's plenty of information about this ancient and mighty monster. But okay, what is the Yeti? Of course, I'm kidding. Scientists named these crabs because of their too hairy appearance. They look like Yeti, don't you think? In fact, I found another similarity. Just like the Yeti, these crabs are hard to find because they live at great depths, about 1.2 miles. The pressure is off the charts. The temperature jumps to 752 degrees Fahrenheit in some places. And the water is a cauldron of chemicals. I wouldn't want to be there. Blue dragon. And this is probably one of the most beautiful creatures I've ever seen. It's a pity that the blue dragon is also found at great depths and we cannot see it more often. The name of this handsome creature is Glaucus atlanticus, and it's a sea slug, in other words a jellyfish eater, although you wouldn't know it from its appearance. Disguise Master. I used to think that this word combination suits exclusively to chameleons. They're such unique guys. But as it turns out, there are no less dignified creatures in the world as well, belonging to deep-sea octopuses. This actor is able to imitate more than 15 species of other marine animals, picking up each time a new strategy for hunting and defense. And this creature is called exactly as beautiful as it looks. However, despite the word angel in the name, we can see a predatory organism which is always in search of fresh devils. Okay, I'm kidding. Or am I? It turns out that in the harsh Arctic waters, the sea angel regularly hunts gastropods, sea butterflies. And I don't advise anyone to see what this cutie transforms into when it comes to battle. It turns from an angel into a chthonic beast. Its head splits in two, and 3 tentacles come out of each half. It grabs the terrified sea butterflies with them. In short, the spectacle is not for the faint-hearted. So to take a breath from all these angels and butterflies, let's check out an ordinary sea cucumber that was found deep in the Pacific Ocean. What do you say? This creature is also predatory and terrifying in its own way? What's the matter? Is there anything cute and fluffy in the deep? Sea cucumbers, despite its harmless name, is a very ancient class of echinoderms which lived before the appearance of man when dinosaurs walked the earth. But the most interesting thing about it is not even that, but its defense process. When predator attacks, the sea cucumber ejects the back of its guts and aquatic lungs through its anus. The internal organs distract the predator, while the cucumber itself remains intact. Don't worry, the missing organs will grow back in just a month to a month and a half. Well, my pleas were finally heard, and scientists showed us this time a nice and harmless finding named Grimpoteuthis. This octopus with ears lives at a depth of about 3 miles, although you can encounter it even 1.2 miles deeper. In adulthood, this handsome, as a rule, does not exceed 8 inches in length. By the way, Mother Nature invented such a nice body not only to please my desire, but also to prevent it from crushing at great depth. In addition, its giant eyes catch the slightest sign of light, and its ears allow the octopus to literally float in the watery depths. Flying fish. Well, the name of the next creature found in the ocean speaks for itself. It's a flying fish, a creature that can soar over the ocean and fly up to 1,300 feet. It's hard to believe, but the fish really can do it. The things you have to do to escape marine predators, am I right? To maintain altitude, the fish periodically touches the surface of the water with its tail to gain speed. It's believed that during flight, these fish move at a speed of up to 43 to 50 miles an hour. Stargazer. I can tell you this about this underwater demon. It bites, it's poisonous, and it can also electrocute you. Simply put, it's best not to mess with it. In addition, these fish are still very poorly studied. People don't know anything about their toxins, for example. Dugong. And this is the sea cow, which is listed in the Red Book as a vulnerable species. Do not think that nothing will happen from the disappearance of this creature. If anyone's not aware, it's incredibly useful in the world's oceans. This kind and lazy underwater vacuum cleaner devours all aquatic vegetation, good and bad, with incredible ease. What's surprising, the dugong fattened up to such an incredible size on the grass alone and stopped worrying about other predators. They simply don't risk being attacked. And then you ask me, why is it in the Red Book? Turns out it's all down to some nasty parasites. The poor dugong probably has no idea that someone is infiltrating its body and eating it from the inside out. Even if the creature knew that, it could hardly do anything about it. After all, even people who study the ocean, many of the creatures they meet at great depth are new. Sometimes you meet such a strange blue slime and think, what do we do with it? Either it's harmless or can send to glory all living creatures in the area indiscriminately right now. For the sake of the truth, there are clearly kind creatures under the water, like this Casper octopus. It has this nickname because of its appearance, resemblance to a famous character. Casper was found at a depth of 2.5 miles near Hawaii. Scientists were struck by several differences between the individual and its relatives. For example, the octopus had no fins, and all the suction cups were located in a single row on each limb. And here's another strange fish that lives a little closer to the surface, but still far away. This is a ghostfish from a depth of 1.2 miles. It's pale, almost completely transparent, and has bulging, glowing eyes. It has underdeveloped muscles and gills, and its spine is only partially bony. This is only a small part of what scientists have learned about it. Perhaps soon we'll learn something even more amazing. Flying spaghetti monster. You've probably already imagined some creature from a legend. You'd think I'm going to tell you a story and not give you video evidence, but that's not the case. The flying spaghetti monster, or something very much like it, was found off the coast of Angola. I'll tell you more. Scientists have hypothesized what it really is, and its name is siphonophore. Siphonophores are among the simplest of the multicellular organisms. In fact, each such organism is a colony of individual, specialized hydras. The most famous of the siphonophores is, of course, the spectacular and deadly poisonous bluebottle, aka the Portuguese man-of-war. However, this monster also belongs to a rare species of siphonophores about which nothing is known yet. Firework jellyfish. If we could give orders to Mother Nature to create living things and ask her to create a firework jellyfish, it'd look like this. This amazing animal was found in the depths of the ocean, and people still can't figure out what it really is. The discovery was made at a depth of about a mile near the coast of Mexico. Notable is the fact that only thanks to researchers, the jellyfish can boast a variety of colors of its body. At such great depths, there's not enough light to distinguish the color of the jellyfish with the naked eye. Sheepshead wrasse. Let me put it this way. The name of the following fish does not correspond to its appearance at all. The name sounds normal and adequate, but the creature looks strange, to put it mildly. This weirdo from Japan is absolutely not afraid of people and often encounters local divers despite all the offensive nicknames in its address. Locals have already nicknamed their new friend, very simply, Underwater Shrek, and this is still, as I think, a great compliment. Ascidians. And here's another brainchild of underwater expeditions. This time not so terrible, but at the same time not yet studied at all. All that can be said about this monster is that it's a kite called Ascidian. There's no more precise information or even speculation from scientists on the subject. Lyre sponge. Those familiar with music have already heard in the name of the following creature a stringed, plucked instrument. As you can imagine, it was in its honor that this sponge was named. It was found at a depth of about 2 miles. It turned out that the sponge lyre is attached to the seafloor with the help of special organs similar to roots. It has several arms located parallel to the sea surface. Several vertical branches with tips extend from them, resembling small spades at a closer look. The largest of all found individuals of this species was almost 24 inches in length, and it was found in 2012. Since then, these monsters have hardly been seen. But one that's definitely real is the cosmic worm in the following story. A research vessel found a giant creature from the siphonophores on the bottom of the ocean we've talked about before. It looked like a single organism, but it was hardly so. Most likely it was a colony of small creatures whose total length exceeded 400 feet. It was bad luck for the fish that were in the vicinity. The chance of encountering this predator was incredibly high. Google Maps is a great tool that allows you to explore the world from the comfort of your own home. One time you can move right into the street of your favorite city. Another time you can look into the desert. And the next time you can move right into the sea and find a mysterious monster. Who's in this picture? That's something people don't know to this day. We can only see that waves of an incredible size are coming from it, which means that this giant itself is far from weak. What do you think it is? Could it be Kraken or Cthulhu? Our next amazing creature found underwater are called sea pickles or pyrosomes. They belong to the order of tunicates from the salp class. Once encountered, no diver will ever forget it. After all, many compare the brightness of these extraordinary creatures with that of the full moon. Just imagine how this bright organism drifts somewhere at midnight in the ocean. Isn't it beautiful? You don't even want to learn anything about it. You just have to look at it and admire its appearance. The origin of the history. Many people think that the strongest underwater creatures are whales or sharks. Yes, both of these sea creatures are quite large and at the same time powerful, but believe me, compared to the one I'm going to talk about, they're completely harmless and not dangerous. The main predator in the water, if you believe the legends and stories of all sailors, is the Kraken, the giant cephalopod on the basis of which movies and video games are being made today and books are being written. We're having fun and we don't see any problem in this, but is everything really so calm? The famous history of the Kraken began in 1751, when a rather popular publication described a certain monster of the depths that fishermen encountered. The creature, also called a krax or a crab, has never really emerged due to its enormous size and mostly underwater existence. But the details that the author of the article gathered had led him and other readers to believe that the monster exists. Local fishermen said this giant appeared especially often on hot summer days. It was said to show only a small part of its mighty body to everyone. Due to ignorance, people didn't know what to expect from it and seriously thought that it posed no danger. On the contrary, fishermen, at first, consciously swam straight to the Kraken because usually quite a lot of fish gathered under it, which could not but please greedy people. However, such joy didn't last long. Very soon, people realized that it's better not to mess with it. This big creature began to react aggressively to every boat that tried to steal its prey from under its nose. The giant squid grabbed the boats with its huge tentacles and didn't let them go. Once in its tentacles, people had no choice but to jump overboard and hope that they'd be able to swim away from there on a lifeboat. Fortunately, some still managed to make their legendary escape. They arrived at the shore, and the first thing they did, with frightened, simply nightmarish faces, was talking to the residents about what happened. As it usually happens, rumors spread instantly, and very soon almost the whole world knew about the legendary Kraken. But despite this, the Kraken suddenly became much more secretive. It didn't appear so openly in front of fishermen, and at some point it was as if it disappeared from the face of the earth altogether. At least that's what the very adventurers who had been searching for the monster for decades thought. The search continued until 1861 when the French went to Guyana. The paradox is that these sailors didn't even think to look for anyone, but luck smiled on them, although rather it turned away from them. During the voyage, one of the sailors shouted, "I see an unknown giant carcass right ahead. Captain, what do you want me to do?" The excited sailors immediately went on deck to see what their colleague was talking about. Unfortunately for many, it was the Kraken, the very monster that every self-respecting sailor knew about, but mentally didn't want to encounter it. The venturesome Frenchman immediately entered into a heated argument. Some argued that it was an overturned boat. Others thought that it was a giant bundle of seaweed piled up in front of the ship. Still others said that it was probably the body of a horse that had fallen from the deck of some vessel. The fourth suggested that it was not a horse, but just a barrel. But there was a fifth, real version. The ship's captain didn't fall for the theories of his colleagues. He realized that they had probably stumbled upon the legendary Kraken. It was impossible to miss this opportunity, so he ordered to sail closer to the giant. But humans, as I've already mentioned, can be greedy. Seeing the monster is not enough for them. They want to catch it to get worldwide fame and become incredibly rich. That's why the captain of the ship ordered his sailors to pull out their cannons and start shooting at the monster. Such actions didn't lead to anything good. The 3-hour battle only took pieces of the ship with it, as well as some of the crew members. Along with this, it felt as if Mother Nature itself was against this capture. The unexpected bad weather, which raised the waves too high, made it difficult to catch the animal. Despite the fact that no one was caught, the men still struck one last blow. One of the harpoons hit the target. It went straight into the jelly body, and the frightened animal spewed out a mass of liquid ink, and a strong odor of musk wafted around. The sailors threw a noose on the beast, but their joy was premature. A powerful wave threw the ship back and pulled the harpoon out of the beast's body. As a result, the Kraken disappeared and the men were left without prey. This incident gained another strong resonance, during which many famous writers learned about the incident. Jules Verne himself was under the impression, 8 years later. He made this case on the basis of one of the adventures experienced by the crew of Captain Nemo on the Nautilus submarine. What's most interesting is that his stories were based on real events, which almost everyone believed. After that crazy 3-hour battle, the monster left its tail to the people as a souvenir, which became the only and at the same time irrefutable proof. What happened to the Kraken next? It seems that this is where its story should have ended. I mean that people could have organized drives, some large expeditions, explored the underwater world, found new data about the crazy monster and so on, but none of this happened. Or rather, there was research, but the results left much to be desired. Despite this, the Kraken increasingly began to move from books about mythical creatures to scientific works. It went so far that the monster, which eats whales, destroys ships in a few blows, and has no growth limits, was placed among other cephalopods. Sailors said that they often confused this squid with an entire island, and if it didn't like something, it was able to create a full-fledged whirlpool and destroy even a string of ships. You have to admit that when everyone is saying about such a mighty monster, the excessive data makes you doubt them. Eventually, that's exactly what happened. People began to laugh at those who spoke of the existence of some kraken. The only compromise scientists have made is that they've identified a new genus of deep-sea squid that is real and at the same time is quite large. It's called the Architeuthis. It's one of the largest squids in the world at the moment. Finally, it was possible to make sure that the giant squid is not another fiction of sailors in 1861. At that time, the sailors of the French ship found part of the dead animal and brought it to the mainland for study. It was no longer an incomprehensible tale, but a full-fledged part of the squid, so no one doubted the reliability of the data. Although it was not as large as the Kraken, its size was also surprising. The animal could weigh several hundred pounds and be up to 50 feet long. The diet of the cephalopod includes deep-sea fish as well as other squid species. When hunting, Architeuthis catches its prey using suction cups located on its tentacles. After capturing the prey, the squid sends it to its long beak, where it's crushed by the radula, tongue covered with small teeth. After that, the food passes into the esophagus. It's believed that this monster hunts alone. It doesn't need any help. But still, we're interested not in Architeuthis, but in the Kraken, a giant which existence has remained unconfirmed despite a number of interesting and intriguing stories related directly to it. Although science today does not consider its existence seriously, to this day in different parts of the Earth, people find something strange and thought-provoking. So, for example, in 2023, in Japan, on one of the coasts, they filmed an incredibly large creature, which size exceeds several meters. However, there was one nuance. Most scientists, after studying the data, came to the unanimous conclusion that this monster was still very young, which means that it may very well increase in size several times. It's not difficult to estimate that in such a case, this will be a full-fledged kraken. It's a pity that the people who let this squid go and couldn't study it properly. It's likely it could change the history. Another equally interesting case occurred in the early 2000s. At that time, an American frigate was seriously damaged while at sea. The weather was terrible and the sailors couldn't really see what was the cause of such a breakdown. In order to exclude further dangerous consequences, the ship was urgently transported to the repair facility, where interesting details were suddenly revealed. The heavy sonar dome, which was on the front of the ship, was torn to shreds, and the nature of the damage led the people to the conclusion that the attacking creature had suction cups. It was very likely a giant squid. Obviously, it couldn't be an ordinary 33-foot cephalopod. It simply wouldn't have enough strength. We're left to think it was the Kraken after all. The waters of the ocean are full of secrets and mysteries. Often they bring to the shore something that can surprise and frighten people. Next, I'll tell you about the largest creatures washed ashore. Lobster. Here's another aquatic creature that all people know about, at least because lobsters are rather tasty and expensive delicacy. Those who have bought it remember the process of pulling the meat out the little thin legs, peeling off the shell and stuff. All in all, it has its own difficulties. But if you were to get such a cooked lobster on the table, you wouldn't have to bother with the cutting. Any one limb would be enough for the whole family. It's up to you to decide whether to believe in the abnormal lobster found by people or not, but it looks very plausible. Maybe it's one of the mutants or just one such lobster in a million. In any case, it was filmed spectacularly, and the reaction of people makes you believe everything. Angler. It was the one that eyewitnesses found on a beach in California. By the way, do you know why it's called that? Actually, it's quite simple. It's because of the so-called fishing rod at the front of the fish. It's the first ray of the dorsal fin, the elysium. At the end of it, there's a leathery growth, the esca. In order for the esca to become a bait, the angler supplied it with specific microorganisms. Also, these fish are unusual in that instead of the usual mating, they literally merge with each other. This happens either completely or partially. It's what I call true love. Fortunately, such monsters live at great depths and we don't see them often. But sometimes there are exceptions to the rule. So at the place already mentioned in the beginning, the beach in California, the witness found this very angler. They were lucky enough to encounter a female. I personally never figured it out whether it was paired with someone, so guys, hint in the comments. Next up is a somehow washed-ashore creature which ranks second in the list of largest creatures on Earth. I'm talking about the fin whale. By the way, this creature is able to be underwater for up to 15 minutes and during this time dive beyond 820 feet. To illustrate, it's comparable to the 80th floor. Moreover, the fin whale weighs 106,000 pounds or more, and it's 90 feet long. This mighty giant somehow ended up on the territory of southwest England. Its carcass was lying on the rocks right next to the water, and it was apparently motionless. From the outside, it may seem that this is some kind of building taken from afar or something like that. So massive and immense is the animal. The reason for its appearance on land are unknown, but given the condition of the whale at the time of the photo, the carcass was definitely there for more than a few weeks. Sperm whale. These creatures can swallow rocks from the seabed. They help them crush food in their stomachs. But on the day of this shooting, ironically, from afar the sperm whales themselves looked like rocks washed up on the shore. 3 sperm whales were washed ashore in England. Of course, this couldn't go unnoticed, and in a few hours there was a crowd of people who wanted to see these huge creatures with their own eyes, albeit the whales were already dead. According to scientists, although sperm whales are quite large creatures, they can easily get lost in shallow waters. Perhaps because of this and a couple or 3 unfortunate coincidences, the creatures damaged their limbs and the injured ones were no longer able to return to their pod. Presumably, there's still 3 sperm whales left alive, which fate is unknown. I'd like to tell you some interesting facts about sperm whales. So the sperm whale's head is its trademark. It has a rectangular shape and takes up 1/3 of its body. The sperm whale has the largest brain in the world, which can reach a weight of 18 pounds. And the sperm whale's diet consists of 80% squids. The rest of the diet is fish. The stomach of this whale can hold 132 gallons of liquid, and the length of their intestines is 525 feet. It's noteworthy that 33-foot squids were extracted from the bodies of sperm whales. You hear about sperm whales and think to yourself that you have to be some kind of superfish to survive next to such creatures. And then you look at the ocean sunfish and wonder, how does this creature even survive? Yeah, it may have the record weight among bony fish, but that's still not enough, and it can't stand up for itself. There's no venom, no sharp teeth, or anything like that. So what's the secret? Well, the secret is fertility. At a time, this creature can produce up to 300 million eggs. At the same time, the newly hatched creatures have a strong and sharp shell, which will disappear during adulthood. Therefore, it's likely that anyone will be able to eradicate this species. My point is, don't get too worried about this fish found in parts of Australia. At first, it was mistaken for a huge log, since it's so different from other fish. But on the shore, of course, it would no longer be difficult to distinguish the ocean sunfish. The fish was over 6.5 feet long and weighed several hundred kilograms. By the way, this is not the largest of the recorded size. These fish can grow up to 10 feet in length and be more than 13 feet tall and weigh up to 2.5 tons. What's more, this fin makes you think that somewhere underwater there's not an ocean sunfish but a large shark. What do you think of this find? Would you be the first to take selfies with the creature? Or would you show mercy and do something else? Write in the comments. Something. This was found by eyewitnesses off the coast of Mexico. The creature at first appeared to be a very large squid or octopus, but after a closer look I changed my mind. I don't even know what it is anymore. It looks like it has tentacles, but it doesn't seem to have the same tentacles as everyone else. And then there's the enormous size, which makes me crazy. The creature is completely black, as if it's already faded in the sun, having been out in the air for so long. Plus, its limbs are petrified. Maybe it's all fake to get some likes and views. However, it does look real, though I don't think people could make something like that just for a prank. So what should we call this mysterious creature? Blue whale. Today we've already talked about the second largest creature on Earth, the fin whale, which means we can't avoid mentioning the blue whale. It, or rather its body washed ashore, caused more commotion and panic among those around it. The thing is that the body of the blue whale simply bloated. Surely many of you couldn't even think that this is possible anywhere except in animated movies, but it happens. The fact is that after the organs stop working, the body simply has nowhere to release carbon dioxide and other waste products. This process increases the acidity in the cells, they lose their structural integrity, and tissues begin to break down. In addition, bacteria that enters the body naturally, for example through the respiratory and gastrointestinal tracts, begin to multiply, forming carbohydrates, lipids, and proteins in the body. This process is putrefactive, which causes the organs to liquefy, as well as the formation of various gases in the body of the ocean giant like carbon dioxide, methane, and nitrogen. The gases cause the body to overload, which affects its size. It happens that the body doubles in size, as in the video. The moment the pressure in the whale's body becomes too high, the gases begin to escape from the natural orifices, and just trust me, you better not smell it. And what's even nastier, and in some ways more dangerous, is the fact that the whale could explode at any moment from overexertion. That's why the video shows people so concerned about a multi-ton whale stranded near the shore and hitting the rocks. But as far as I know, they didn't talk about any explosion, so it was all right. Nessie. Yes, it's all about that unfortunate inhabitant of Loch Ness. The inhabitant that's fed up with everyone. The inhabitant that no one leaves alone, even if it exists. Anyway, it doesn't matter anymore. After all, some guy posted this photo on social media. Of course, both he and many viewers first thought of the Loch Ness Monster because it happened near the lake, and the size of the creature is very strange. Even a professor joined the discussion and expressed the opinion that it's a representative of a cetacean species. But you must agree, believing in some boring whale is not the best idea. It's much more fun to believe that this is the skeleton of the long-awaited Loch Ness Monster. Wouldn't you agree? Globster. For those who don't know, this is a strange organic mass that washes up on the shores of the oceans. I say this because it was found off the coast of San Antonio in the Philippines. A 20-foot-long, foul-smelling monster covered with something resembling hair was found by locals. Its smell was incredibly disgusting, even for the specialists who came to take samples to determine the species of the creature. Just imagine what it's like for the workers to sort through this slimy carcass to determine the species. That's the moment to reflect on your job and say how much you love it. Let's start with this photo, which the author of the photo says shows a whale. It seems that people are actually watching a part of the cliff falling into the water, but the author claims that it's a whale. However, it's unclear what's wrong with its color in such a case, but there is no doubt about the existence of whales of similar size. After all, in 2012, people managed to capture this whale on camera. It may be even bigger than the giant by the cliff. In September of that year, tourists were lucky enough to see and film a whale that swam into the coastal waters of Australia. It was not possible to measure the giant on the spot, but presumably it was at least 100 feet long. And its mass, according to scientists, exceeded 200 tons. No one has ever managed to capture such large whales on camera before or since, so the whale was a record-breaking and unique in every sense. And in general, on that day, all the stars seem to align for tourists and locals, because blue whales of such a size do not often swim to the place where the giant was found. And this year, people managed to capture a whale that was not as large, but no less interesting. Off the coast of Valencia in Spain, they came across this whale. What's wrong with it, you might ask? And indeed, it swims in a strange way, like it doesn't want to move its hind fin or something. But in fact, people filmed a rare and very large whale having scoliosis. Yes, it's not just humans that have scoliosis. It was a fin whale, and it was about 56 feet long. At first, people didn't even realize what was wrong with the whale. They thought that it got tangled in fishing net and lost in space, so it started twisting to get out. but scientists quickly explained everything to them. The fin whale eventually managed to swim away from the shoreline, but it was not easy for it. Biologists believe that whales having scoliosis experience severe pain and are unable to move their tails normally. Despite this, the fin whale with scoliosis was able to travel thousands of miles to migrate. As for the scoliosis, the giant could have gotten the injury by colliding with a large ship. This has already happened to other whales, such as humpback whales. Underwater encounter. Usually people encounter and film large whales somewhere on or near the surface of the water or close to the shore. But what about this one? These divers were lucky enough to come across a very large whale right under the water. The giant was swimming calmly, showing off for the camera, and then apparently called out to its congener. You can see two whales in the footage. The huge and majestic creatures did not think to attack divers or interfere with their diving, because whales, as we know, are kind animals. And also, contrary to all the legends, whales cannot swallow a human. They have a very narrow throat. Nevertheless, a whale may accidentally swallow a person into its mouth along with water while eating krill, so it's better not to swim close to a whale that's eating. Whales are the main giants of the underwater world, but there are other huge creatures to be seen in the oceans, seas, and rivers. Why not take a look at them too? Keep watching to see a real sea serpent, creepy squids that'll make you stay awake at night, a jellyfish the size of a man, and more. King of herrings. Not every fish will be dubbed a king, but in the case of the king of herrings, everything's deserved. It's also known as the giant oarfish, and at the moment it is the longest bony fish in the world. Its average length is 10 feet, but lucky people have found kings of herrings that were 30 to 35 feet long. No wonder it's believed that these fish became the prototypes of the mythical sea serpents. Usually these creatures swim at great depths, so it's not so easy to encounter them and capture them on camera. But in this case, two giant oarfish rose to the surface at once to show off for people. It was a 1 in a million moment. It happens very rarely. I don't know who was luckier, them or these divers. They encountered a giant oarfish right in the sea off the coast of Taiwan. They came across one of the biggest giant oarfish people have ever seen. The giant was also very tough with holes on its body. Scientists believe that this is the result of the work of a cookie cutter shark, which is known for biting whole pieces of meat off large fish. Although the fact of encountering the giant oarfish can be called successful, the residents of Taiwan are not happy about it. They consider the appearance of this fish as a bad omen. In their opinion, it could be a sign of an imminent earthquake. It's one thing to come across a fish, though a long one, but still a fish. But what is it?
Uh-oh.
The video is old and has poor quality, but we can still get a glimpse of this something. It's hard to even describe. It lives at great depths. It has something like very long tentacles, and its head is oddly shaped. Or here's another. This is a more recent case that happened this year. Scientists came across the same creature in the Gulf of Mexico. It looks very creepy. What is it? An unknown species or some kind of alien? It's neither. In fact, it's Magna Pina. And strangely enough, it's not a jellyfish, as you might think, but a squid. A big fin squid, to be more precise. These cephalopods live at great depths and are astonishingly large. The length of their body, along with the tentacles, which are more correctly called hands, reach 40 feet. With the help of these creepy and thin hands, the squid catches bottom prey. Although Magna Pina is the most unusual squid, it's still not the only deep-sea squid. There are also giant squid. If the giant oarfish I showed you are considered prototypes of sea serpents, these cephalopods are prototypes of the kraken. Well, or their relatives, if krakens are real after all. This video is interesting, not only because here a very large giant squid was filmed from such a close distance, but also because usually these animals do not rise to the surface and prefer to live at a depth of several hundred feet and deeper. And in this video, the giant squid is already in its usual habitat. This is, by the way, one of the first videos which shows the giant squid. Due to the fact that these giants live at a big depth and rarely delight people with their visits to the surface, scientists don't know as much about them as they would like to. Besides, just 150 years ago, no one could believe that such animals really exist. So what are we even talking about? Jellyfish. But if I lived in the late 19th century, I personally would have a harder time believing not in a giant squid, but in a jellyfish the size of a human. See for yourself. Divers came across one of these a few years ago. Even in this state, the jellyfish is huge, but if it were to straighten its tentacles, it could be about 10 times the size of the diver. Here, by the way, is another encounter with such a giant jellyfish. I don't know about you, but I wouldn't go near one of these in the ocean if I were a diver. But actually, this jellyfish is not as dangerous as you might think. It can sting, but it's not fatal. At most, there will be a rash or allergies. By the way, the jellyfish itself is called the lion's mane jellyfish, and in terms of length, it's one of the longest creatures on the planet. The length of the lion's mane jellyfish, along with its tentacles, can reach 120 feet. Catfish. Catfish are one of the main giants of rivers and oceans, but I think that not many people realize how big these animals really are. Check out this catfish the diver stumbled upon. From a distance, it looked more like some huge rock under the reef. In the murky water, it'd be difficult to see a catfish in it. But it's not so scary. Catfish are predators, but they rarely attack humans. And here we see a catfish that's been caught. An Italian man caught one of the largest catfish in the Po River in the north of the country. How you like the catch? It's not bad if you ask me, but the catch of these fishermen is much more unusual and interesting. They managed to catch not just a huge catfish, but an albino catfish. A white catfish is a rarity and a very important trophy for fishermen. But these guys didn't take the fish for themselves. After a little photo shoot, they returned the catfish to its native habitat. Stingray. Look what a giant stingray people managed to capture on camera. It's just unbelievably big. From some angles, it looks like a small underwater airplane rather than a living creature. But rays can really amaze us, especially manta rays. It was a manta ray that these people filmed. Manta rays are the largest rays on the planet and can be up to 30 feet wide. It's likely that people have filmed the largest ray that lives in the world right now. Despite their impressive size, manta rays are not dangerous to humans. They're never interested in us and prey, which cannot be said about the main toothy creature of the ocean, sharks. Any shark is capable of frightening anyone, let alone such a huge one, which was filmed by cage divers diving in the ocean. The great white shark hit the diver's cage, swam away, then turned around, and we see that the cage is not closed. It means the giant shark could eat the divers, but they're not afraid. It's actually a famous shark named Deep Blue. She's the largest great white shark ever caught on camera. But despite this, she's not aggressive. Different divers often swim with Deep Blue. Although they all take risks in any case, the record-breaking shark has so far given no reason to doubt her poise, as well as her calm and kind character. Now let's get back to whales and their main enemies, orcas. Next, I'll tell you why orcas are several times more dangerous than whales. Let's start with some information. The orca is a species of cetacean in the oceanic dolphin family and the only representative of its genus. It's also the largest member of the family and the only true predator among modern cetaceans. The orca is a real sea giant. These monsters grow up to 33 feet in length and weigh up to 8 tons. Thus, they're comparable in size with the largest sharks and even some whales. Orcas live everywhere and occur both in open waters and near the shore, so it's not difficult to encounter an orca in the ocean. Orcas are very intelligent creatures. The orca's brain is one of the largest of all mammals in the world. According to the latest scientific data, orcas not only have a vocabulary of up to 14,000 sound signals, which allows them to communicate with each other, but also transmit social skills in the group from generation to generation. Moreover, each group of orcas has its own vocal dialect, and orcas themselves live and hunt in groups similar to lion prides. The social structure of such a group is very complex and developed and represents a real family, where the elders teach the youngers how to hunt. Speaking of hunting, that's why we're here today. Orcas are extremely voracious creatures. They need to eat a lot and very often, from 110 to 330 pounds of food per day. That's why orcas are constantly patrolling the waters in search of food. It doesn't matter whom to attack because they're top predators, having no natural enemies. Orcas attack different kinds of whales, from colossal blue and gray whales to dangerous sperm whales and humpback whales. Not surprisingly, orcas are otherwise known as killer whales because they can deal with a huge whale without much effort. But in fact, orcas do not attack whales very often. After all, they're very large and it's not reasonable to hunt them. Nevertheless, history knows several cases of attacks. Blue whales were attacked by killer whales at least 3 times. It was first documented in 2019 when 14 orcas attacked an adult blue whale, bit off a piece of the body, and then began eating its tongue. After the whale body went underwater, 50 more orcas joined the attack. They ate up the remains, which were floating on the surface of the water. The second documented attack occurred a couple of weeks later. The prey was 33 to 40 feet long and was attacked by 25 orcas. This time they repeated their ritual again. An adult female swam into the whale's mouth and bit off its tongue. For 3.5 hours of eating the whale, another 25 individuals joined the pod. Finally, the third whale was eliminated last year. After a long chase, 12 orcas attacked a baby blue whale, and then everything was according to the old scheme – striking, biting off the tongue, and eating together. Orcas similarly hunt on humpback and gray whales. They exhaust their prey by hunting them in huge pods and then attack, bite, and devour the animals within hours. At least the sperm whale can stand up to orcas. After all, this whale is toothed and is a predator. Despite the fact that orcas are its only enemies in the world, sometimes the sperm whale itself can attack killer whales. But usually it's done by orcas themselves. They choose sperm whale babies as their target and brutally massacre them. But it's not always easy. If the baby swims with a group of sperm whales, the adults will protect it. Seeing a pod of bloodthirsty orcas, the sperm whales create a living barrier surrounding the baby. It's impossible for orcas to cope with several sperm whales simultaneously, and they can't get to the baby, so they usually just swim away in search of more suitable prey. A shark can be such a prey. Yes, orcas are one of the few creatures that dare to engage in a fight with formidable sharks for food. The tactics are similar to whale hunting. Orcas track the shark in a pod and then engage in a fight. Orcas can fight a single shark or sometimes a whole group of predators at once. On rare occasions, one orca can stand up to several predatory sharks at once, which looks very epic. By the way, orca hunting on sharks recently revealed an interesting fact. Killer whales are even smarter than we thought. 2 male killer whales that settled near the town of Gansbai in South Africa have learned to hunt great white sharks and eat their livers, which are rich in energy. This has happened before when scientists found preys of killer whales, a variety of large fish. Many of them were missing their livers as well as other organs rich in various nutrients and elements. Such selectivity in the diet cannot be found in every carnivore. In fact, the Gansbai sharks even had to move to other waters to keep the killer whales from gnawing out someone else's liver. Sharks and whales are certainly impressive preys, but orcas don't hunt them so often. Much more often, their prey is fish. But the most favorite food of orcas is seals. Despite the fact that seals are also predators, they can do almost nothing against orcas. Seal hunting can be different. Orcas can attack a seal in water when the pinniped itself is hunting and looking for fish. In such a case, even one orca can deal with the seal. But seals don't always spend time in the water. They often rest on ice floes, and the killer whales know about it very well. Hunting for seals on the ice is the most common. In this case, the orcas form a group and start attacking. Having tracked the seal, they cautiously swim up to the ice floe and then begin to break it from the bottom. At the same time, orcas create waves that rock the ice floe. From this moment on, the seal thinks only about survival. There's no sense in jumping into the water, the seal will be devoured right away. And that's why it has to stay afloat and crawl to the pieces of ice that are not yet broken. Sometimes seals survive, but usually killer whales exhaust them, the pinnipeds fall into the water and become dinner. As if that's not enough, orcas can still play with seals before the meal. To be more exact, they can mock them. Killer whales take a seal and throw it in the air from the surface. At times, the pinnipeds fly up to 33 feet in height. Do you still remember how I said that orcas can be found near the shore? Well, near the shore is literally near the shore. Sometimes orcas hunt seals resting near the water's edge and swiftly attack them, getting out of the water almost completely. In this case, one individual, not a pod of killer whales, is hunting. Before the meal on the shore, the orca can also mock its prey. For example, it can beat the seal on the sand in front of its shocked congeners, or beat it up in shallow water. No wonder that seals are very much afraid of orcas and immediately get away from killer whales, seeing them from a distance. Sometimes seals even jump into the boats of people, just to avoid becoming the prey of bloodthirsty and cruel killer whales. Since I started talking about the shore, let's dwell on this topic a little longer. Not only seals, but also birds can become a prey for orcas on the shore. Some orcas are able to catch them when they fly low over the water, and some of them can be eaten right from the shore. However, in the wild it happens very rare. Much more often, this picture can be seen in aquariums where orcas hunt on the birds sitting on the board. But that's not all. It turns out that orcas even eat moose, but this is rather an exception to the rule. History knows several cases when real remains of moose were found in the stomachs of killer whales. Supposedly, orcas hunted on moose in the same way as on seals, near the shore. But there's another version. Moose can dive to a depth of 13 to even 17 feet and hold their breath for half a minute. Some killer whales can take advantage of this by attacking horned creatures right underwater. In general, orcas sometimes overdo it in their attempts to attack any creature on the shore. There are known cases when killer whales were so carried away by hunting that they were thrown ashore or even on the shoreline rocks. After this, it's impossible to return independently. Orcas can only hope for help from people. Fortunately, caring people often help the giants, pour water on them before the arrival of rescuers, then drag them into the water. What about humans, by the way? We found out that orcas could deal with whales and sharks, mockingly tear a seal to pieces, and even make a moose their prey. Turns out that humans don't stand a chance against orcas, right? Surprisingly, this is not true. For all their top predator status, enormous size, intelligence, and aggression, orcas are safe for humans in the wild. So far, there have been no documented cases of orcas attacking humans in the ocean, let alone fatalities. Orcas are not afraid of humans, but at the same time they're not interested in humans as food. Moreover, we can say that orcas are even friendly towards humans. They allow people to swim near them, and sometimes they join the swim and play with people in the ocean. But it's not all so unambiguous. In the wild, a killer whale will not attack a person, but it will easily attack a ship with a person. For example, last year a pod of 30 orcas attacked a British yacht in the Strait of Gibraltar. They crashed into the hull and bit off part of the steering wheel. Similar things have happened before and later. For example, in June of this year, orcas attacked a yacht off the coast of Portugal, breaking the steering wheel, causing major damage to the ship, and frightening the sailor. But that's not all. In fact, orcas can attack and even kill a human, but it only happens in captivity. It's believed that in captivity these whales go crazy, become fierce from the lack of food and space, and therefore begin to see people as a threat. They can bite a human, can try to wear them out like a seal, can drown them, or just maim them. This usually happens to animal trainers and oceanarium workers. In general, orcas are amazing creatures, but you have to be very careful with them. Don't forget, they are called killers. That's all, guys. Would you like to see an orca in person? Let me know in the comments. Thanks for watching, and see you later.